Manchester United exploring shock hijack deal for Georgi Mamardashvili, Sancho being forced out of the club, and Manuel Ugarte to United is a matter of time. These are some of the stories we will be discussing on this morning's live show. But before we get into that, please do me one small favour. Smash a like on today's video. Let's try and see 1,000 likes on this episode. And if this is your first time watching, please do subscribe to the channel. I'm live every single day at 8:30, 1:30 and 6. We're very, very close to 40k subscribers. So if this is your first time watching, make sure you get involved. It's completely free content and everyone is welcome. Right, so much to get into on the show this morning. It's great to be back live again with you all today. So I hope everyone is doing well. Happy Sunday. Hope you've got some nice things planned. And let's start the show off by talking a little bit. Actually, what I want to first say, before we get into any transfer related stuff, is that we want to send a get well soon message to Angel Gomez. I don't know if anybody saw, but he had some horrible freak injury yesterday playing for Lille. Had some blow to the head, had to be rushed to hospital. Apparently he is now conscious. So yeah, sending all of our thoughts there to Angel Gomez, obviously an ex-Manchester United player. Hope he gets better soon. It's horrible when stuff like that happens, isn't it? You know, with footballers and they go down on the pitch and they have to get taken to the hospital and there's this uncertainty. But yeah, so hopefully he's okay. He seems to have, woken up. So sending our thoughts to him. I just thought it was important to get that in there before we start today's video. Right, let's start the show off by talking a little bit about Scott McTominay then, shall we? Because Scott McTominay is one of the vital pieces of the puzzle that is going to unlock Manchester United's final weeks of the transfer window. So the latest on McTominay, this is coming out from DiMarzio, it's coming out from other Italian journalists as well, is that apparently Scott McTominay has spoken to Antonio Conte in the last 24 hours and told Napoli specifically that he wants to leave Manchester United and that he wants to join Napoli this summer. Now, for this deal to go through, apparently Napoli need to sell Victor Osimhen. It looks like Chelsea are the ones leading the race for him. Victor Osimhen wants to leave the club. Obviously, he's got this ridiculous 120 million euros release clause, I think. Most teams aren't going to be willing to pay 120 million euros for Victor Osimhen, but it does look like he will leave the club this summer. Once that happens, Napoli are then expected to put in a bid of around 30 million euros for Scott McTominay. But there is also interest from other clubs. Apparently, Fulham are still interested. Brentford are interested. Obviously, Galatasaray and Fenerbahce are interested, and also Everton are interested. So there's about 5 or 6 clubs who are all desperate to sign Scott McTominay this summer. McTominay effectively will get the final choice, but the main condition of the deal is that they meet Manchester United's release clause. Manchester United are asking for £25 million plus around £5 million in add-ons, which I think is probably fair. He's got 1 year left on his deal. I think he turns 28 in a couple of months. Manchester United either cash in on him now or they let him go into the final year of his contract. And then they have the tough decision of either letting him go for free or giving him a new deal. And to be honest, I don't think Manchester United giving Scott McTominay a new deal at the age of 28 is the most forward-thinking decision. Are we going to achieve our goals in the long run with McTominay as an important part of the squad? I don't think so, personally. Now, does he have the right attitude? Yes. Does he love the club? I'm sure he does. He's come through the academy and all the rest of it. But I don't think that's enough these days to earn you the divine right of playing for Manchester United. Just because you've come through the youth academy doesn't mean that you can stay at the club forever, So yeah, that's my take on McTominay. I don't mind him as a person, as a character. I like him for all of those reasons. But I think from a footballing perspective, he's very limited. And I think that, if Manchester United want to start challenging for the title, even finishing second or third, I think moving on McTominay and bringing in somebody a little bit more of a specialist CDM or a specialist central midfielder would be better. I've always said this about McTominay. As a second striker or as somebody to come off the bench in the final minutes of a game, chuck him up top and try and get a goal, I think he's actually world class at doing that, genuinely. I think he's a world class, final 10 minutes of the game, get him on the pitch, make sure he stays far up the pitch and he'll probably bag you a goal. But it can go the other way. We've seen many times where McTominay comes in with 10 minutes to go to try and hold down a lead, and he'll give away a penalty. He'll give away a clumsy free kick, and then they'll score. So it goes two ways. I think as long as McTominay's kept in the opponent's half, he's not a bad player to have. But as soon as you're defending, or as soon as he's in his own half, I think he's a bit of a liability. So that's my take on McTominay. Obviously, you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. But it does look like Napoli will go for him. And if they don't, I'm confident that one of these other teams that we mentioned, the Evertons, the Brentfords, the Fulhams, they're still heavily interested in him. So yeah, it looks like McTominay is probably the most likely of the kind of bigger players to leave the club this summer. So I'll keep you I'll keep you updated on that one as and when we get more news. Somebody's saying that Napoli just signed Neres. Let's have a look. I don't know much about Neres, to be honest with you. Let's have a look at what he is about. Okay, so David Neres to Napoli. Here we go. Agreement sealed with Benfica, 30 million. David Neres travels to Italy to do medical tests. Fabrizio says Napoli are busy with more signings while Neres is finally done. I'll be honest, I've never heard of Neres, so I'm going to have a little look. What position does he play? He is a winger, okay, 27-year-old winger. I mean, Napoli are already spending the Osimhen money effectively, aren't they? They know that Osimhen's going to leave the club. They know that he wants to leave, so that they're effectively, bringing in signings based on that. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't really understand this whole narrative that Napoli need to sell before they can buy. They've just literally agreed a deal for someone for 30 million euros. So why is it when Manchester United want to sell a player, the teams have to sell to buy, but when Manchester United... when another club wants to sell a player, they don't have to sell to buy. It's a bit strange, isn't it? And I mean, like looking at their net spend for this summer, Napoli's net spend is only 38 million euros. You'd think that Napoli, a club of that stature would have more than 38 million euros to spend in one window. But I guess arguably they did finish out of the top four last season. So, they don't have the Champions League money. They don't even have the Europa League money. So they may be struggling a little bit, but I always thought that Napoli had like super rich owners and had loads of money, but maybe I'm wrong. But right, let's move on from that though, and let's jump on over to. But thank you to the people who made me aware of that in the chat. I really appreciate that. Let's move on over to Ferdi Kadioglu, because there are more stories this morning coming out suggesting that Manchester United are going to go back in for Ferdi Kadioglu. So this is coming from Turkish outlet Futospor, which is a football outlet in Turkey. I wouldn't say it's the most reliable source, to be honest, but obviously it's a news show. I bring you the news, we discuss it, and we kind of decide on the reliability between us. So the stories come out from this Turkish sport media website, and then it's been reposted by the Manchester Evening News and other places as well. So it's been quite widely put out there. And the headline is apparently that Manchester United have scheduled a meeting with Ferdi Kadioglu's agent to try and convince him to join Manchester United this summer. It obviously does mention that apparently Brighton are also interested in Ferdi Kadioglu, and Brighton have already made a significant bid for Ferdi Kadioglu. Now, the information that I've been told by multiple people is that Ferdi Kadioglu to Brighton is the one to watch out for, and that Manchester United are interested in the player, but it's not as advanced as some of the other people are making out. Me reading this story, I honestly just think that this is the agent of Ferdi Kadioglu trying to speed up the deal for him to go to Brighton, because I just don't see how we're going to be able to afford Ferdi Kadioglu for £30 million if we can't even agree a deal for Manuel Ugarte. Like, where would we get the money from? That's the bit that I don't understand. Would I like Ferdi Kadioglu? Yes, I think he'd be really, really a good addition to the squad. But I just can't get my head around where the money would come from. We keep being told that we need to sell to buy. We need to sell to buy. There isn't going to be any sales in the left-back position. Luke Shaw's going nowhere. Malacia is going nowhere. So how are we going to raise the funds to get £30 million for Ferdi Kadioglu if we're already struggling to get the money to bring in Manuel Ugarte? That's the bit that I can't get my head around, and that's the bit that, from this story, makes me a little bit, confused about it. But if you were to ask me whether I wanted him, I think he'd be a great signing. Although I will say this, and I saw quite an interesting take last night, right? I would say now, personally, for me, Mazraoui should be our starting right back, without a shadow of a doubt. He's the most experienced. I know he's only played one game for Manchester United, but let's be honest, right? Mazraoui is a better right back than Dalot, I think. He's 2 or 3 years older as well, so Dalot could easily catch up to him. But at the moment, based on the last 2, 3, 4 years, Mazraoui is a better right back than Dalot. I was talking to a Bayern Munich fan yesterday, and I follow quite a few Bayern Munich fans on Twitter just because of all of the De Ligt saga and stuff. I've been chatting to them over on Twitter, and the general consensus from the fan base is that they're all absolutely devastated that Mazraoui left. They're saying he's their best right back. They were saying that he was like, they said he had no bad traits. He's good going forward. He's good defensively. They said the only thing that kind of holds Mazraoui back a little bit is his injuries. But other than that, they were like, he is an unbelievable player. And this was the Bayern Munich fans themselves. You know, they were all saying, like, I can't believe we sold him for such a small amount of money, and saying how much of a good deal we got. Why would Bayern Munich fans say that? You know, they've watched him every single year for the last 2 or 3 years. And for them to come out and say that, they were all quite upset, I think, that Bayern Munich moved him on. But the point I'm making here is I actually think that Dallow's going to end up playing at left back more this season, because Luke Shaw's injured, Malacia is injured, right? So, and Dallow can obviously play at left back as well. So if it was up to me, I would have Mazraoui as our starting right back, and I would have Dallow as our starting left back. And then Luke Shaw, when he comes back, he's got to earn his way back into that team. He doesn't just then have a divine right to start. And then if you look at kind of squad depth, obviously you've got Harry Amas still. You've got Martinez, who can play at left back as well. And obviously then you will have a few other options when Luke Shaw and Malacia come back. But the point I'm trying to make here is, as much as I want Ferdi Kadioglu, I actually think that the starting right back and left back should be Dallow at left back and Ferdi Kadioglu at right back. So as much as Ferdi Kadioglu would be a good signing, I don't think he would actually start for us. And it's like, can we justify paying £30 million for somebody who maybe isn't going to start? Now, I know some people would say it's all about squad depth. You know, we're going to have all these fixtures. We need to rotate players. What about injuries? I get all of that. But I just personally think that at the moment, there are more pressing positions that we need to focus on, i.e. the CDM. I still personally think that we need another attacking player. And I know some people keep calling me out for this opinion, which is fine. You can disagree with me. But I personally think that another attacking player is really, really important, because, you know, we look at the team that started against Fulham on Friday. We had Bruno Fernandes playing as a number 9. I don't want Bruno Fernandes playing as a number 9, to be honest. I don't think it really works that well. I personally do think we need another attacking player. I do, because the thing with Højlund is, right, I love Højlund. I think he's quality. I think he's going to go on to be a very good player for us, but his injuries do worry me. He had this hamstring injury last year. He missed like 5 or 6 games with that. And this season, Rasmus Højlund's got the same hamstring injury. What happens if Xerxes gets injured now? We don't have anybody, you know? And I just don't think that Bruno Fernandes playing as a number 9 is enough for us. Like, we're not at the level of a Man City where, you know, Pep Guardiola would put Bernardo Silva or Gundogan as a number 9 but before they had Haaland, and it would work. Like, we're not that level yet. If we were Man City, obviously you could put like Jack Grealish as a number 9, or Bernardo Silva, or Gundogan, or Rodri, or not Rodri, but you know what I mean? You could put one of those players and it would work fine. But I just don't think that Manchester United are there yet. And I would personally be looking at, you know, another attacking player. Somebody who ideally is versatile, who can play on the left, the right, and down the middle. But that's my opinion. Obviously, you can disagree. We've got over 1,200 people watching the video live now, which is amazing. We've only got 200 likes, though. So if everybody who's watching can do me a small favour and go and hit the like button, that would be really, really appreciated. And if this is your first time watching, please do subscribe to the channel. I'm live every day at 8:30, 1:30, and 6. We're very, very close to 40,000 subscribers now. Once we hit 40k, I'm going to be giving out 2 of the new Manchester United shirts. So make sure you go and subscribe if you haven't already. Let's try and get to 40k as quick as possible, and I will be giving away 2 Manchester United shirts. Hassine says we should start Chido Obi Martin or buy Ivan Toney. I honestly wouldn't mind Ivan Toney at Manchester United. If you could get him for cheap, I think he'd be quite a good signing. But it just all depends on how much money Brentford are going to want. But yeah, it would be interesting to see, you know. It would be interesting to see someone of that experience at Manchester United. And I know some people say, oh, well, Ivan Toney isn't actually that prolific, you know. Like, he's had a couple of seasons where he's only scored like 5 or 10 goals. I get that. But I think it's more just about numbers in those areas. It's about experience. And at the moment, we've got Xerxes, who I think is going to be quality. But for me personally, I see Xerxes as a playmaker, somebody who's not greedy, somebody who, you know, will play others in before shooting himself. Like, he's that type of player. He's skillful, he's fast. Whereas someone like Ivan Toney, his primary goal is literally just holding up the ball and getting in and scoring. That's kind of all he's good at, isn't it? Whereas, you know, Xerxes is a bit more of a versatile player. He's not like an out-and-out goal scorer. I know he scored the goal the other night, but you know what I mean. Like, Xerxes has more to his game than just goals. And I think Xerxes will be kind of judged on his overall performance, because he will contribute a lot. Right, let's move on to Jadon Sancho then, shall we? Because there's a new story that's just come out from Manchester Evening News, and it's being reported by multiple different outlets in Germany that apparently Chelsea are trying to offer Manchester United players in exchange for Jadon Sancho. Now, the question I've got for you here is, right, what players from Chelsea would you swap for Jadon Sancho? Now, obviously, be realistic. They're not going to give us Cole Palmer. They're not going to give us, I don't know, Moises Caicedo. From the players that we know Chelsea want rid of, I can go through them if you want. It's Ben Chilwell. It's Trevor Chalobah. There's a couple of others I've probably forgotten about. Is there any Chelsea players that you would be happy to do a swap deal for in exchange for Jadon Sancho? Now, I personally wouldn't mind Trevor Chalobah. I would still want Chelsea to give us like a vast amount of money. We're talking 40 million plus Trevor Chalobah, something like that. I think the thing with Trevor Chalobah is, right, I know he's not the most exciting name. I know he's not like a Ferdi Kadioglu or I don't know, someone like that people get excited about. But the good thing with Trevor Chalobah is his versatility. Obviously, he can play at left-sided centre-back, right-sided centre-back, CDM, and as a right-back. And I think that going into this season, having somebody like that who's very versatile would be really, really beneficial. Now, I would much rather Chelsea just give us, 60 million for Jadon Sancho. Like, I'm not that bothered about having any of their players. But for argument's sake, if there was some sort of swap deal on the cards, I think it would have to be a vast amount of money plus someone like Trevor Chalobah. But in all honesty, I think swap deals are usually quite difficult to do. They're not the most simplest things to happen. And I know that in recent years, we've seen it a little bit more because of PSR rules and stuff and people trying to get around the rules by doing like clever swap deals and etc. But like Chelsea aren't going to offer us any player who is worth the same amount of money as Jadon Sancho. They're not going to offer us a Cole Palmer. They're not going to offer us a Moises Caicedo or an Enzo or whoever it might be. They're going to offer us people like Trevor Chalobah and Ben Chilwell, who realistically are not part of their plans, aren't training with the first team, aren't in the matchday squads, and that they want to get rid of. So I personally wouldn't jump at that opportunity. I would much rather them just give us the money. And then if we want to go and sign Trevor Chalobah, and if he's the number one target for Erik ten Hag, then go and sign him. But I don't honestly believe that Trevor Chalobah is United's number one target. We still know that Man United want Jared Branthwaite. We still know that they have interest in other players ahead of someone like Trevor Chalobah. And for me personally, Trevor Chalobah would just feel like a kind of emergency backup signing. But in all honesty, I think he could do a job. I'm not saying I want him, but he could do a job, So yeah, let me know. Is there anybody from Chelsea that you'd be interested to do some sort of swap deal for Jadon Sancho for? Somebody says I'd swap him for Cucurella. Yeah, Cucurella's an interesting player. Yeah, I don't mind Cucurella, to be fair. But yeah, so with Jadon Sancho, he's obviously not... He wasn't in the matchday squad on the weekend. Erik ten Hag said he had an ear infection, but then went on to say that he was available, but he just wasn't picked, and that he could only pick 20 players. And Jadon Sancho wasn't one of those 20 players. So yeah, it's a little bit of a surprise, really, that, the season's literally only just started and Erik ten Hag is already effectively saying that Jadon Sancho wasn't picked. Like, a little bit of a shock, but I think the writing's on the wall for Jadon Sancho. Manchester United clearly want rid of him. Erik ten Hag clearly doesn't see him in his plans. And put aside everything that's happened between ten Hag and Jadon Sancho, right? Jadon Sancho's now going into his 4th season at Manchester United. Like, that's crazy, isn't it, to think? He signed from Dortmund in 2021. So yeah, 21, 22, 23. Yeah, this is literally his 4th full season at Manchester United. And I honestly can't remember more than... I'll be honest, I can't remember any games where Jadon Sancho completely lit it up and I thought he's amazing. Like, we've got such a good player here. Like, genuinely, in 4 years. I'm sure there's one or two that people will remind me of. But, like, generally, I can't really remember any notable performances from Jadon Sancho in the 3 years that he's already been here. And he's now going into his 4th season and he only has 2 years left on his deal. So even if you think he's right or you think Erik ten Hag's right, I think it's kind of irrelevant. Like, Sancho's proved nothing to us over the last 3 years, other than that he seems like a difficult person to work with, a disruptive person to work with, and I would say a toxic person to have around the squad. That's the only thing that he's shown us, He hasn't had any, in my opinion, good moments for Manchester United. Now, obviously, you could argue that maybe he hasn't been played enough. He was played in the wrong positions and all the rest of it. But the only reason that happens is if he's not putting in work on the training field. And when he is getting his chances, he's not taking them. Like, football is a results-based game, isn't it? And if Jadon Sancho's not trying in training and Jadon Sancho's not scoring goals and getting assists and contributing on the pitch, then obviously he's not going to play. It's as simple as that. So yeah, for me personally, I think if we can move on Sancho, I would definitely do it. And at the moment, yeah, I just don't think he's as good as what we paid for. We just got mugged off by Dortmund effectively. We paid 85 million euros for him. We got completely mugged off. So yeah, that's my take on that. But obviously you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Ben says, what's going wrong with the Chido Obi Martin deal? In relation to Chido Obi Martin, because he is under 18, Manchester United have to pay, it's called like a training compensation. So it's effectively to compensate Arsenal for all of the training, all of the food, etc. It's a weird thing. It only happens with players under a certain age. And yeah, so Manchester United are currently having to negotiate this training compensation with Arsenal that they have to pay them in order to complete the deal. But he has signed his contract. He's done his medical. It will be announced soon, but obviously it can't be announced until... it can't be announced until that's all kind of been ironed out, which I don't know how long that will take, to be honest. I have no idea. I've never really seen stuff like that before. There's people in the chat asking about Adrian Truffet. I've not really heard too much about this, but I can see the story that people are referring to. So it's saying that Rennes left back Adrian Truffet is attracting interest from Manchester United. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I don't know. I'll be honest. I don't really know that much about him. His value apparently is around 20 million euros. He's just played for France at the Olympics. I'll be honest, I've never seen this guy play, so I'm not going to sit here and pretend to you that I'm an expert on this Adrian Truffet guy. So yeah, this story literally just came out. I personally think that this is just another example of the agent of the player trying to get him a move, to be honest. Like, I've said this to you many, many times before. Manchester United will be linked to 1,000 players in the transfer window every single season, and 99.9% of them Manchester United won't be interested in. It would literally just be the agent of the player trying to get the player removed. That's all it ever is, And I think this Trevor Truffet story is effectively the same thing. Does he look like an interesting profile player? Yes, young, had a very good season for Rennes, had a very good Olympics from what I can see. Can play as a left back, which is probably what we need. Has played for the France national team once. It sounds great, doesn't it? But I just don't see how Manchester United are going to afford to sign this guy if we're still struggling to get the money together for Manuel Ugarte. So I would say that we can probably ignore this story, to be honest. But yeah, we'll wait and see what happens. This story's literally just appeared today, and the place that's reporting it isn't the most reliable. It is... I've just closed my window, but it wasn't... It was like One Football or something. It was just like one of those websites that literally have 1,000,001 news stories every single day about every single player you've ever imagined joining Manchester United. There isn't anybody reliable reporting this story as far as I can see. It's literally just those super clickbait sport websites, So the only place that's reporting it is Get French Football News. What is Get French Football News? I've never heard of that. I don't know what that is. And then Yahoo are posting about it as well. Who thought in 2024 Yahoo would be a reliable football source? It just clearly isn't, is it? So those are the only two places that are reporting this story. There's nowhere else reporting it. If anything, there's more stories saying that Liverpool are interested in him. So again, as I said, it might be that one of the clubs linked to him have a genuine interest, whether that's Liverpool, apparently Wolves are interested, apparently Nottingham Forest are interested. There's loads and loads of clubs who want to sign this Truffet guy. What's the best way to speed up a deal? Oh, Manchester United now want him. Oh, Manchester United are going to put in a bid for him. It's literally so predictable. It happens every single window. A player's about to join another club, and then suddenly Manchester United want to sign them. And then next thing you know, they go to West Brom or something. There was a story like that yesterday, wasn't there, that I was talking about? That Ecuadorian CDM, I can't remember his name, but last summer, I think his name was Zapoza or something. Some guy last summer, right? This Ecuadorian CDM, we were linked to him all summer. People saying he's the next Moises Caicedo. He's absolutely unbelievable. He's going to be world class. And then he's just joined Hull now. it just happens so much, and we just have to be aware that most of the time these stories are just agents trying to get their players big moves, making them seem like they're more in demand than they are, because now Manchester United want to sign them. So yeah, that's my take on that. Maybe he signs, maybe we'll sat here in a couple of weeks and you'd all say he signed, you were wrong, and that's fine. But yeah, it's not like Fabrizio or David Ornstein or the BBC or the Athletic. It's not, none of them are reporting it. It's literally just like random football websites. We've got over 1,500 people watching the video live now, which is amazing. If everyone could do me a small favor and smash a like, that'd be really, really appreciated. Let's try and get to 1,000 likes by the time I end this video. And if this is your first time watching, please do subscribe to the channel. We are very, very close to 40k, guys, so make sure you go and subscribe. Let's make sure we hit that let's try and hit it by next week, and then I'll be giving out 2 Manchester United shirts. So yeah, go and do that right now. Let me just have a sip of my tea quickly. Lovely. Right. Okay, let's move on to Mamardashvili. So this story's coming out from a couple of quite reliable people this morning. So I saw it on the Manchester Evening News, but then I did a little bit more digging because I thought, like, Manchester Evening News just reposts stuff. Like, they don't actually have that many sources themselves. And then it's also on the BBC website as well. So it's been, it's on quite a few different reliable outlets at the moment, this Mamardashvili story. Let me just get it up for you. I've got a bit of a cold, so excuse me if I sneeze. Let me just get my tissue. Right, Mamardashvili. Okay, so this is coming out from the BBC. It's coming out from Eurosport, Manchester Evening News, BT Sport, loads of Liverpool websites as well. So this Georgi Mamardashvili guy had apparently agreed a deal to join Liverpool. The deal hasn't been confirmed yet. He is 23 years of age, obviously plays for Georgia, was a very, very good player at the Euros. I'd say one of the best goalkeepers at the Euros. Currently plays football for Valencia. He's available this summer for a fee of around 35 to 40 million pounds. And the story this morning is that apparently Manchester United have held a meeting with his agent to try and convince him to join Manchester United. Now, you're probably asking yourself, why do we need another goalkeeper? But realistically, do we honestly think that Altay Bayındır is going to stay here for very long? I don't think so. Altay Bayındır was obviously, or is, the Turkish national team goalkeeper. He's an international goalkeeper. He was playing every single week for Fenerbahce in the Turkish league. He comes to Manchester United and he's played one game against Newport in the League Cup, which was, let's be honest, I mean, I'll say it was an easy game, but I don't think it even was it? But yeah, he's only played once for Manchester United in a whole season, and Andre Onana has played every other game. Now, do Manchester United need another goalkeeper? I wouldn't be against it. I don't think it's a priority at the moment, but I wouldn't be against it because the likelihood is that Altay Bayındır is going to leave. Obviously, and this Mamardashvili guy is only 23, so he is somebody for the future. Onana's 28. I know goalkeepers can go on for a very, very long time, so it's not like we need to be worried about Onana's age. But I still think there's massive question marks over Andre Onana, personally. And obviously, I want Erik ten Hag to stay as the manager. Like, he's my priority. I back Erik ten Hag 100%. But if Erik ten Hag was to lose his job in the future, say, which I don't want to happen, just to be very, very clear, do you think that Onana would end up still being the number one goalkeeper? That's the question. I don't know. And if that did happen, Erik ten Hag left, whatever, would Altay Bayındır then be good enough to be the goalkeeper? I don't think so. I look, honestly, I want Onana to do well this season. I back him. I hope that he, shows us what he did at Inter Milan. But I think it's all safe to say that there is still a lot of question marks around Andre Onana, right? Would everybody agree on that? I want him to prove us wrong. I want him to have an unbelievable season this year. I want him to win the Golden Glove. I want him to, to solidify his game. But at the moment, is there anybody else worried about the goalkeeper position? Because I still am a bit. I'm not 100% convinced by Andre Onana, Like, the amount of mistakes he made last season, that can't happen again this year. I honestly think that if Onana makes the same mistakes this year, we have to get a new goalkeeper, The first season, I get it. It's the biggest club in the world. The goalkeeper position for Manchester United is notoriously the hardest position. The most pressure. David De Gea, when he first joined, had a stinker for the first year. Schmeichel had a stinker for the first year when he was here. So I think the first season you kind of do give them the benefit of the doubt. But now Onana needs to show us why we spent 50 million on him, you know? And at the moment, I know people are like, why would we want a new goalkeeper? But when you actually think about it, can we rely on Andre Onana? If you look at the first season to go off, no, I don't think so. But as I said, hopefully he can prove us wrong. Hopefully he shows us that, you know, he's worth all the money we paid for him. And hopefully, you know, we don't need a new goalkeeper. But I think it is sensible for Manchester United to be exploring other options. Let me just blow my nose quickly. As I said, I've got a bit of a cold today. It's weird because it's just started getting warm in the UK and then suddenly you get a cold. Which is unfortunate, but that's just the way the world works, isn't it? Okay, but yeah, you can let me know, like, how do you feel about the goalkeeper situation at Manchester United? Do you think we need to be looking at another goalkeeper? Are you happy with Andre Onana? I don't really want to do a poll on it because I think it's a little bit toxic to be like starting this agenda against Onana. I'm just giving my honest opinion and based on the people that I've spoken to. Like most people that I've spoke to who are Manchester United fans, you know, think that Andre Onana is a little bit unreliable, you know? I wanted to throw something into the show as well, right? And I'm going to set up a poll because I think this is a good question to have as a poll. And the question is this. Would we all agree that Casemiro played well against Fulham? I thought Casemiro was one of the best players on the pitch. Would we all agree that Casemiro played well in the Community Shield? I think he did well. Now, if Casemiro can continue the form that he showed in his first season and how he played against Fulham, do we even need Manuel Ugarte? So let's do a poll. If Casemiro... Hold on, one sec. So there, I'm going to set the poll up. There we go. So let's work on the assumption that Casemiro continues in the form that we've seen against Fulham and we saw against Man City, right? And what we've seen in his first year. Do we think Manuel Ugarte is actually required? And I know there's a massive gamble there because Casemiro might just start having some stinkers. But if Casemiro continues in the way he's playing at the moment, right? Surely Manuel Ugarte wouldn't even get in the team ahead of him at the moment. I don't think so. Like, I know everyone's obsessed about Manuel Ugarte. There's this obsession that if we sign him, everything's going to be great and, you know, it would be the missing piece of the puzzle and all the rest of it. Like, I get it. People seem to cling on to this player or this hope that, you know, one player is going to solve all of our problems. And Manuel Ugarte is that player. I'm not fully convinced by that, to be honest. I think Manuel Ugarte would be a good signing, but I don't think that by signing Manuel Ugarte, we're suddenly going to be like title challengers. I think there's still so many plugs to fill in our team. Like I said, the goalkeeper, that's a question mark. Left back's a question mark. Another centre back. One or two midfielders. I think another striker. Maybe another wing player if Sancho goes. Like, I think we're like 4 or 5 players away, first team players away from, you know, competing. And I'm not convinced that bringing in Manuel Ugarte is going to take us from here to here. Because at the moment, what I'm seeing of Casemiro, I know he was terrible last season, but everybody was terrible last season. What I'm seeing, and to be very clear, right, for the whole of the transfer window, I was saying that Casemiro has to go, get him out, you know? So people like, I want nothing more than footballers to prove my opinions wrong. My opinion all summer was that Casemiro has to be sold 100%. He has to go. But he's had a full pre-season. He looks fit. And he's done well, I think, in the games that we've seen him so far. And I've seen quite a few people in the fan base talking about this. Like, if Casemiro continues in the form that he does, where would Manuel Ugarte fit into that team? And also, I assume most people in the channel, in the chat today, right, want Toby Collier to get game time, right? Would you all agree on that? We want Toby Collier to break through. He, to me, is the next youth player to break through into the first team, Toby Collier. And what would happen there? Say it's a battle between Ugarte and Casemiro. What happens to Toby Collier? He's not going to go out on loan. He just sits on the bench all season. It's a difficult one, isn't it? And I think that the more that this Manuel Ugarte deal rattles on, if we can get him for like £40 million tops, I think it's a deal worth doing. But the more that the window goes on, the more, we run the risk of PSG just saying no, no, no. And just to be very, very clear, right? Casemiro isn't the future for Manchester United, okay? He isn't the future. He is the present, and that's it. Like, I'm not saying by any means that Casemiro should be given a new contract and stay until he's in his late 30s. I still think Casemiro should leave. But as I've said to you many, many times before, we can all want things. But if no one wants to buy Casemiro, we can't move him on, Lumen says, I think that Casemiro is only putting in effort now to convince the board that we don't need Manuel Ugarte. Maybe. I don't know. I think that's a little bit conspiracy theorist. I'm sure Casemiro has personal pride and wants to play well, But Ginge says, Casemiro has had 7 weeks off. He is fresh at the moment, but when the games come fast, he will be slow and sluggish. I mean, that's a fair point. That's a fair point there. I just saw some people talking about it on Twitter, and I thought it was an interesting conversation to bring into the show, Like, let's rephrase this. If Casemiro is playing the way that he's playing now, does he get benched for Manuel Ugarte? Who, let's be honest here, right? Me included. Is there anybody in the chat today who's actually seen Manuel Ugarte play more than 5 times? I would say probably not. There might be a couple of you who watch every single game of every team in world football, but I would say the large majority of people watching this video have probably only seen Manuel Ugarte 5 times. Some of you might not have even seen him 5 times. And we're all kind of attached to this hope that if Manuel Ugarte comes in, he's this amazing player, he's going to change everything. But I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting conversation to have, and I like to, I like to bring these conversations in and to create conversation and see what you guys think. So that's what I wanted to bring up. I personally agree with the comment I read out a couple of minutes ago from Ginge that said that effectively at the moment, Casemiro is fresh. He's had a long holiday. He's had a full pre-season. He looks great, I think. But he is 32. He is starting to get injuries quite a lot. And give it a couple of months, I think Casemiro will probably get injured or he'll start putting in stinkers. And then we'll all be sat here saying, why did we not sign Manuel Ugarte? So it's very easy to look in the present and think, like at this moment in time, I genuinely think if we sign Manuel Ugarte today, Casemiro will start ahead of him for the next 2 or 3 games. 100%. Because Erik ten Hag likes to slowly bring the players into the squad. But it might be that by the time that Manuel Ugarte is ready to start, Casemiro will probably be playing rubbish again. So yeah, I think it's difficult, isn't it? And it's hard for Manchester United to not get sidetracked with their plans. They're probably looking at the situation and thinking, maybe we don't need to spend the money. Maybe Casemiro is all right for one more season. But that's a massive risk because, as I've just said, if in a month's time Casemiro gets injured or he starts looking lazy or all the rest of it, we have no other option then. McTominay can't play there. Eriksen can't. Mount can't. Bruno can't. Hannibal's going to go. Toby Collier can, but can you rely on Toby Collier? So that's where the question marks come in. It's just difficult though, because on the flip side, you never know. Casemiro might have a world-class season. He might be amazing all year, and Manuel Ugarte might sit on the bench all season. That's a possibility. But I guess in this top level football, you have to have options. You have to have squad rotation. And Manuel Ugarte would be an amazing signing for that reason alone, wouldn't he? So, yeah, there isn't a right or wrong answer here. I just wanted to get you guys' opinions because, I've seen quite a lot of people saying, if Casemiro continues playing the way he's playing, do we need to spend 60 million euros on Manuel Ugarte now? I'm not saying we don't need to sign him at all. We definitely need to sign him. But could we not do it next summer? There's no one else trying to sign Manuel Ugarte, it seems, at the moment. It's just us. So, if there was a genuine opportunity to wait a year, maybe that's a better option. But I don't know. We'll wait and see what happens with that one. I just thought it was an interesting conversation to have. Let me know your thoughts on that one in the comment section. Do you think Manuel Ugarte would even get ahead of Casemiro based on his current form? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Let's see what people are saying in the chat then quickly. Just a quick one. If everyone could do me a favour and smash a like, that'd be appreciated. We've only got 400 likes and we've got over 1,500 people watching. So please do go and like the video if you haven't already. Make sure you get involved. And I assume everybody's joined our fantasy league by now. If you haven't joined our fantasy football league, Just type in Daily Red Devil on the Fantasy Football Leagues and you will find us. Go and get involved. There will be a prize for whoever wins at the end of the season. Let's have a little look how the Fantasy Football League is doing, actually. Let's see who's winning at the moment. I'm going to drop a link into the chat for the Fantasy Football League for those of you who want to join. Where is it? Daily Red Devil. So yeah, if you want to join the league, I know people keep asking me for the code and stuff. So I'm going to drop a link into the chat now. So I assume everybody does fantasy football, right? I'm not sponsored by them, by the way. So if people are like, why are you plugging this? It's just because I think it's a fun thing to do. It's completely free. So I've just dropped the link into the chat to join the fantasy football. Code for fantasy football. There we go. So anybody who's not in our fantasy football league, go and join. So at the moment, let's have a look who is top of the league. So at the moment, it is someone called Sean Hendricks, who has got 84 points. Fair enough. At the moment, I'm 29th in the league. I think we've got about 500 people in the league already. So yeah, crazy. Big ups to all of you. Go and join the Fantasy Football League if you haven't already. And make sure to like the video and subscribe to the show as well. Randy says, I think Ugarte is only worth about 30 million euros tops. You know what, mate? I actually agree with you. Maybe not euros. I would say he's worth about 30 million pounds, which is like 40 million euros. I think. I don't think he's worth 60 million euros. I don't think he's worth 50. I would say 40, absolute max. Based on what I've seen of him, based on the fact that he's not even playing for PSG, like, I just don't see this player where I'm like, oh, he's world class. I don't think he's world class personally. I think he's good, but I don't think he's world class. Like, would he get in the best 11? And, you know, is he better than Rodri? Is he better than Declan Rice? I don't think so. So yeah, I actually agree with you. I really want Manuel Ugarte. I just think that the price that they're asking for is ridiculous. There's no way he's worth 60 million euros. Not in a million years. I just think it's crazy. Even if it was 60 million including add-ons, I still just think it's absolutely mad amounts of money for somebody who barely played for PSG that last season and had one season at Sporting Lisbon before that. Somebody else says, why would a bench warmer that hasn't proven anything be worth 60 million? Yeah, I agree with you, mate, 100%. Like, what I've seen of Manuel Ugarte, he looks great. He looks quality, but I just don't think he's worth 60 million euros. And I think PSG probably know that as well, but they're just trying their luck. They're hoping that they can kind of claw back the stupid amount of money they paid to Sporting Lisbon. And whether or not they'll do that is all down to Manchester United. It's whether Manchester United, you know, surrender to their demands. But I don't think United will, to be honest. I think United will, you know, stand firm. And I would be absolutely shocked if they pay anywhere near 60 million euros, I think. I think even 50 million euros is too much for him, you know? Like 40 million, I think would be fair. And the problem is as well, right? If you pay 60 million euros for Manuel Ugarte, he has to start every single game. He has to. You can't pay 60 million euros for somebody to sit on the bench. You know, like that just can't happen, in my opinion. But George says he is a regular starter for Uruguay, though. Mate, Pellistri is a regular starter for Uruguay. Like, let's be real here. Uruguay don't have a particularly good national team. They don't. They've got like Darwin Nunez. Obviously, Suarez used to play for them. If you look through their squad, right, people to be like, oh, he starts for Uruguay, right? So Uruguay's midfield options are Federico Valverde, who's obviously world class, and the rest of them, it's like Bentancur from Tottenham, who's, let's be honest, pretty average. Emilio Martinez, who is average. Someone called Nicolas de la Cruz, and someone called Nathan Nandez, who plays in the Saudi League. Like, those are their midfield options. So no wonder he starts for the Uruguayan national team. You can see from looking at the players they have, the three starting players will probably be Bentancur, Manuel Ugarte and Valverde. And all of the other players who are kind of trying to fight for that position in the CDM role are like literally like 5 million euro players who play in the Saudi League. And the fact that Pellistri starts every game for Uruguay, like that kind of sums it up for me. He's like our 6th or 7th choice winger. He played at right back in the Community Shield because there wasn't anywhere else for him to play. And he starts for Uruguay. Like, just because somebody plays for the national team doesn't mean that they're world class or doesn't mean that they're the best in the world. He's the best Uruguayan CDM. And that doesn't really mean much, you know? Somebody saying that Rice isn't world class. I didn't say Rice was world class. I just said that Manuel Ugarte isn't better than Declan Rice. That's all I said. I'm looking at the other players in the Premier League in that position, right? He's not better than Declan Rice. He's not better than Rodri. I mean, yeah. But that's just my opinion. Maybe you think Manuel Ugarte is better than Declan Rice, but I would 100% prefer Declan Rice than Manuel Ugarte, without a shadow of a doubt. Let's see what else people are saying in the chat quickly. Randy says, Amrabat has proved himself in our team. Why would we now go and sign Manuel Ugarte, who's overpriced? I think the thing with Amrabat is his age and his profile. It is not a particularly good business move to sign Amrabat. He's 28. If you bring him in now, you give him a 3 or 4 year contract, he's kind of like going down in stock price, isn't he? Whereas Manuel Ugarte, he's still young. He's only 23. You still have that potential that Manuel Ugarte comes to Manchester United, he develops, and in 2 or 3 years, he might be the best CDM in the world. Like that's what Manchester United are looking at here. They're looking at his age profile. They're looking at his potential. What you see in Amrabat now is the finished product. Like, he's not going to get any better. Whereas Manuel Ugarte, I'm saying that I don't think he's world class yet, but he's still only 23. He's very, very young, and he's got probably 10 years left at the top level. You know, I mean, how old's Rodri? I think Rodri's 28, is he? Yeah, Rodri's 28. So where do you think Manuel Ugarte will be in 5 years? Player ability wise, you know, you'd hope that he'd be on the level of a Rodri, or you'd hope that he'd be on the level of a I don't know, so somebody like that, you know. So I think that's why there's this attraction to Manuel Ugarte. It's like they probably know that he's not the finished article yet, and they think that under the guidance of Erik ten Hag, Manuel Ugarte can grow and become the player, a world class player. So yeah, Sir Law says I'd go for Amrabat, Sanderberg, and Reguilon and be done with this window. And Randy says, why pay for potential? That's a fair point. I mean, with Antony, we supposedly paid for potential, and we saw where that ended up. You know, Manchester United publicly said that they paid 95 million euros for Antony because they thought he's going to be the best winger in the world in the future. They said they paid all of that money because they were paying for potential. That was what they said. And yeah, I don't think it's the same with Manuel Ugarte, because I think Ugarte is better than Antony. Overpaying for him just because in the future he might become this special player. I just think is maybe a little bit risky. But I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. It's been a really, really good show this morning. Please make sure to smash a like on the video before you leave. Please subscribe to the channel if you are new. I'll be back at 1:30 and 6. If anything goes breaking, I will go live as well, so make sure you subscribe. I think my video looks like it's going to crash, so this looks like a good time to end the video. Have a great day, everybody. Enjoy your Sundays. Don't forget to like, drop a comment, subscribe. Go and join our fantasy football league as well. It's just Daily Red Devil, so if you use the app already, go on the leagues, type in Daily Red Devil and you'll find it. Have a lovely day, everybody. I'll speak to you all later. Bye for now.